Around 400 years ago, a man named Jan Reynolds lived in the village of Widdecoombe on the Moor, right in the middle of what is now Dartmoor National Park. Like most of the men that lived in the area, Jan was a tin miner, but, unlike most of his fellows, he was a violent drunkard and gambler. As most gamblers eventually do, he ran up a substantial debt and, without a clear way to pay it off, turned to the dark arts for amnesty. Remembering what little he could from church, as well as the drunken assertions of self-styled witch-finders, he prepared an altar, read an incantation, and despite his clumsiness, succeeded in summoning the devil. After hearing Jan's petition, the Lord of Hell offered him a simple trade: his soul for 30 pieces of gold. Jan thought for a while and came close to rejecting the offer as too mean a price. However, when Old Nick reminded him that this was a far greater sum than Judas had received, Jan accepted the deal eagerly. After paying his debts, Jan had enough gold left over to gamble, whore and drink his way through life for the next year until, quite to his surprise, he found himself sat at the back of the Church of St. Pancras. Evidently, his long-suffering wife had become so sick and tired of his behaviour that she had paid 3 local men to pick him up from the tavern floor and drop him onto one of the pews. His wife, who was a far better and far godlier woman than he deserved, had hoped that the Sunday sermon would inspire him to change, but unfortunately this was not to be. Instead, as the sermon continued, the skies darkened. Sudden storms are not uncommon on Dartmoor, but nobody had ever seen one so violent come about so quickly. In moments the sky was as black as night, and hailstones as large as pebbles poured down, while thunderclaps shook the earth. Suddenly a violent gust of wind blew the doors open, and in flew a ball of bright blue lightning. The ball ricocheted off the walls, incinerating the intricate tapestries and turning the stout wooden pews into matchwood, before burning the altar to a cinder right along with the parish priest. At first, distracted as they were, nobody saw the dark-robed figure flying behind it, but all it took was a moment. As soon as they got a whiff of his sulphurous stench and felt that malevolent presence, everyone, unto the smallest child, knew that Satan himself had come. Cowering in place, holding their prayer books as shields and their crosses as totems, they watched evil itself defile all they held holy. As he flew towards the back of the church, he putrefied the very air, setting the Bible aflame and turning magnificent stained glass windows to dust as he went. They saw the King of Demons soar down the aisle towards the last pew and hover over Jan Reynolds, pointing towards his heart. They saw him lift Jan with no more effort than it would take a child to pick up a doll. They saw him carry Jan to the roof of the church where a coal-black horse awaited, and then they saw Jan Reynolds struggling for dear life as the foul beast flew over the Warren House Inn and on towards hell itself. As they passed over the inn, 4 objects fell from Jan's coat pocket. 4 playing cards, 4 aces, the best hand Jan had ever had. As the cards landed on the ground, the fields around them shuddered, as if hit by cannon fire. Terrified, the villagers kept their distance for a good long while, but when they did approach, they saw that in place of the playing cards were 4 small fields, one in the shape of a heart, the others in the shape of a club, a diamond, and a spade. The fields were quickly named the Devil's Playing Cards, and if you ever visit the Warren House Inn, you can still see them today. As for Jan Reynolds, no one ever saw or heard from him again, but there are those that say that if you go to the inn on the anniversary of his abduction and listen closely, you can still hear the ghastly echoes of his desperate, helpless screams.